Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we are tackling a topic that can feel a little daunting. We're talking about healthcare compliance.
More than a little daunting.
Yeah, specifically we're diving into that massive and, let's be honest, sometimes terrifying stack of paperwork known as credentialing. We've got a whole stack of material here on a new era of regulation that's about to hit therapy clinics, so PTs, OTs, speech-language pathologists.
It's not just a stack of paperwork anymore. It's more like a compliance bomb waiting to go off if you're not ready. We've been looking at the regulatory overhaul from the National Committee for Quality Assurance, the NCQA.
Right.
And this affects every single clinic that contracts with major insurance payers. And the critical date, the one you need to circle in red, is July 1st, 2025. That's when these new standards kick in.
And the date is coming up a lot faster than it feels. So our mission today is pretty simple. We want to give you a shortcut to understanding this fundamental shift. We're moving from a world of occasional checks to one of mandatory, continuous real-time monitoring. This isn't just about making your life harder. It's really about avoiding some devastating payer audit risks that could honestly sink a practice. Okay, let's unpack this.
So we have to start with the foundation. Credentialing isn't optional, It's a federal mandate.
Right.
The Social Security Act and CMS regulations, they require health plans to credential and recredential every single provider in their network. It's how they ensure providers are qualified, safe, and, properly licensed.
And groups like the NCQA, they're the enforcement arm for that.
Exactly. Accrediting bodies like NCQA and the Joint Commission, they're the mechanism payers use to prove they're meeting that federal rule.
So if the federal law already mandates this, what was the old baseline we're moving from? And why is this NCQA update such a seismic shift?
The historical federal baseline required providers to be recredentialed at least every 3 years.
3 years.
Every 36 months. That meant updating their license, checking for sanctions, reviewing some performance data. It was, a big administrative chore you tackled every few years. NCQA's 2025 standards are basically saying 3 years is way too long between check-ins.
So they're pushing clinics from this reactive cycle to something more proactive.
A constant stay of readiness, that's the goal.
That sounds like a dramatic increase in the day-to-day workload.
Yeah.
Why is compliance with these specific NCQA standards, not just the federal rules, so critical for therapy clinics right now? What are the real stakes here?
The stakes are participation and, frankly, solvency. Meeting these NCQA standards is your #1 defense in a payer audit. If you're compliant, your paperwork is basically bulletproof.
But if you have gaps?
If you have gaps, an expired license on file, a missing reference, a lapsed background check, those are direct pathways to compliance failures. We're talking audit findings that lead to huge claim denials, recoupments, or even the ultimate penalty, losing your contract with a major insurer.
So it's not just about quality of care, which is obviously paramount, but it becomes a hard operational risk issue.
Exactly. Rigorous verification is the ultimate patient safety measure, right?
Hmm.
It screens out fraud, ensures legitimate practice. But the practical driver here is business continuity. Many state Medicaid managed care organizations now require NCQA accreditation just to be in their networks.
Oh, wow.
So if you want to contract with them or with the big commercial insurers who follow NCQA's lead, aligning with these 2025 standards is just the cost of doing business. You really can't afford to wait.
That puts in a really sharp financial perspective. So if you're a smaller clinic, you might feel targeted, but the truth is you have to meet these standards just to keep the lights on and get paid on time.
It's the gatekeeper to the reimbursement stream. And if the gatekeeper changes the lock, you have to upgrade your key. Period.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. Let's break down those actual changes. We've identified 3 major updates that are going to radically redefine compliance. These aren't just small tweaks. What's the biggest conceptual shift in these 2025 rules?
It is, without a doubt, the mandatory move to monthly monitoring.
Monthly?
Yes. NCQA has formally killed the idea of relying on a yearly or, even a quarterly review. Clinics are now required to continuously monitor provider licenses, any government sanctions, and those crucial federal exclusion lists, and that verification has to happen every single month.
So we're talking about lists like the Federal OIG Exclusion List and SAM.gov, the ones that screen for providers who are barred from federal programs because of fraud or misconduct.
That's right. Medicare already requires checking those, but NCQA is now making that high-frequency check the standard across all providers for the health plans they accredit.
What does that actually mean for, an average practice administrator?
It means the administrative burden just exploded. Think about it. A therapy practice with, say, 40 licensed providers, PTs, OTs, SLPs, assistants, everyone.
Mm-hmm.
That's 40 individual checks across maybe 3 or 4 different databases, 12 times a year. If you're relying on a manual system where somebody pulls out a binder and clicks through government websites, the risk of human error, of just missing one, becomes huge.
And missing one monthly check means your audit trail fails instantly.
Instantly. This is the single biggest thing that's forcing clinics toward automation.
That perfectly illustrates why this isn't just a rule change, it's really a technology mandate. Okay, so what's the second major update, the one that focuses on the application itself?
The second is the implementation of shorter verification timelines. So when you first bring a provider on, or when they hit their recredentialing cycle, the documents you use can't be old.
You mean like having a license verification from 2 years ago on the file?
Exactly that. NCQA is dramatically shortening the look-back windows for that primary source verification. In many cases, they're shrinking them to 120 days. This applies to everything: current licenses, board certifications, liability insurance. It means the whole credentialing file before it can be approved has to contain super current, verified data.
So the new reality is continuous monthly monitoring moving forward and a much stricter, shorter window for the initial data. You can't start the clock with stale information. How does all this feed into the third core change?
The third change is all about formalized procedures and expanded documentation. It's not enough to be compliant. You have to be able to prove you're compliant with a perfect audit trail. And this means new, formalized policies for 2 critical areas.
And what are those 2 areas?
First, the clinic must have documented procedures for a practitioner's right to review and correct information in their own file.
It's like a mini grievance process?
Sort of, yeah. A formal process for a provider to challenge the accuracy of the data you're using. And second, and this is the real administrative killer, the clinic must maintain a meticulous log, an irrefutable audit trail of every single monthly check you perform.
Wait, let me just process that. That means the old days of a staff member just, ticking a box on a spreadsheet that says checked OIG are completely over.
Over.
Now you need the dated screenshot,
Right.
the verified result, the time, the signature, all stored and indexed for every provider every month. If I'm a clinic director, I'm not just worried about compliance, I'm worried about where I'm going to find the staff hours for this.
That's the reality. This elevates credentialing from an admin task to a major liability management system. If an auditor asks to see proof of monitoring for provider X from July 2025 to July 2027, you have to produce 24 dated, verified logs, miss 1 month, and you have an audit finding.
The conclusion is just unavoidable. Manual credentialing is now a massive liability. Technology isn't a luxury anymore. It's an absolute operational necessity.
Correct. The only practical way to run 40 checks across 4 databases 12 times a year, document it all, and ensure the audit trail is perfect is with software or by outsourcing it.
Okay, so this sounds, well, it sounds pretty overwhelming. If automation and meticulous records are the defense, what are the first actionable steps a clinic needs to take, like tomorrow, to get ready for July 2025?
Okay, let's break down the strategy. Step 1 is the mandatory first move. Update your policies and procedures. Your credentialing manual is basically outdated the second these rules take effect. You have to revise your internal documents to explicitly show the NCQA 2025 requirements.
So write down the monthly checks, the 120-day window.
All of it. And the procedures for practitioner rights. You have to get your own rule book in line with the new reality first.
That makes sense. You can't ask your staff to follow rules you haven't even adopted. So step 2 must address that workload we talked about.
Absolutely. Step 2 is embracing technology, or CVOs. Practices have to decide. Do we invest in credentialing software to manage this in-house, or do we partner with a credentialing verification organization, a CVO, to handle it for us?
For a smaller clinic, what's the cost benefit there? Is it a choice between a huge software subscription and outsourcing?
It really depends on your scale. A CVO can often be more cost-effective for smaller practices because they spread the cost of the tech and the trained staff across many clients. Internal software is a hefty upfront investment and needs specialized training. But either way, software or a CVO, the process has to be automated. You just can't do this manually anymore.
Automation defends against that fatal monthly lapse. Okay, so step 3 focuses on the file itself, the final product of all this.
Precisely. Step 3, maintain audit-ready files, the master file. This isn't just a folder anymore, it's a meticulously organized system. For every provider, you need one complete file with everything: licenses, certifications, insurance, references, signed attestations. But the most critical part is that documented log, the proof of the date and result of every single verification.
That log is the physical evidence that you're compliant. That's what the auditor is going to look for. All right, moving on. Step 4 touches on quality.
Right. Step 4 is to monitor performance data. We're focusing a lot on licenses and sanctions, but the federal rules also expect credentialing to include performance indicators. So clinics need to keep systematically collecting quality and grievance metrics, patient satisfaction scores, peer reviews, things like that.
So credentialing ties directly back to patient outcomes. It's not just about weeding out bad actors, but making sure the good ones meet expectations. And lastly, for clinics that decide to outsource this to a CVO, what's the key warning?
That brings us to step 5, delegate wisely. If a clinic outsources this work, they have to do their homework. You need a contractual guarantee that your CVO partner understands and rigorously implements the NCQA 2025 standards, including the monthly monitoring and the detailed audit trails.
Why is that so important?
Because NCQA holds the primary organization, the therapy clinic, responsible, even if the task was delegated.
Full. So even if I pay a CVO thousands of dollars, if they miss a monthly OIG check on one of my PTs, my clinic is the one that still faces the claim denials, the recoupments, and maybe losing the contract.
That is the fundamental truth of delegation and compliance. Outsourcing the work does not outsource the liability. You're paying for a service, but you remain the responsible party in the eyes of the regulator and the payer.
Wow. So checking on your CVO partner is now an annual compliance step in itself.
It has to be.
This has been an incredibly detailed breakdown of what is essentially a revolution in compliance. Before we close, let's just summarize the urgency one last time.
The ultimate goal is to move from reactive risk management to proactive financial stability. The shift to continuous monthly monitoring is the tool NCQA is using to enforce higher quality and better security. For clinics, this means you need to be running regular internal audits of those master files now to catch gaps before July 1st, 2025, and definitely before a payer audit finds them for you.
So what does this all mean? The era of periodic compliance is officially over. Continuous monitoring, powered by technology, is the new mandate. If you're running a therapy clinic, you need to be actively revising your policy manuals and looking at automated solutions right now to get your files compliant by that deadline. And here's something to chew on until our next deep dive. Given this new reality, the requirement to monitor licenses and sanctions monthly and continuously collect performance data, how might payers or regulators eventually use this constant, real-time stream of data to move beyond the current 3-year credentialing cycle entirely? I mean, could we be headed toward dynamic credentialing where a provider's network status shifts based on their performance, changing maybe week to week instead of year to year, something to explore on your own time?